All right, so this is going to be our Fun Fact Friday for the Friday before the hurricane break because I forgot to do one. But what I want to do, I want to show you where the quadratic formula comes from. Basically, it's just completing the square and then solving for x. So let me show you how that works. So I have here a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And we want to solve for x by completing the square. Well, if I'm going to complete the square, first thing I have to do is get that a out of the way. I don't want a coefficient that's not 1 in front of the x squared. So we're going to divide everything by a. So now we have x squared plus bx over a plus c over a equals 0. Next step, we can complete the square. So completing the square says to take that b over a, because that's my middle coefficient, take half of it, so that'd be b over 2a, and square it. So that's b squared over 4a squared. Okay, so that's our magic add and subtract value. So let me write that in. Okay, now let's go ahead and put our original stuff with it. Okay, so this may look a little messy, but all I've done is my completing the square step. If I chose my special number right, this is a perfect square, and in fact it is. This is x plus b over 2a squared. Okay, and I'm going to then get this other stuff, the constants, to the other side of the equation. So that'll give me a positive b squared over 4a squared minus c over a. Well, let's go ahead and do common denominator for that right-hand side, because that's kind of a pain to look at. So if I do common denominator, I will have b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Double check that. If you take 4ac over 4a squared, that does simplify down to c over a. All right, let's write in our left-hand side. Okay, now I'm trying to solve for x, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So the left-hand side becomes x plus b over 2a, and that equals plus or minus the square root of that messy fraction. Well, the numerator is going to stay b squared minus 4ac under the square root, but the denominator comes out perfectly when I square root it to 2a. So I square rooted both pieces. That denominator came out to 2a. All right, hopefully now you're noticing your quadratic formula in here. My last step, I just need to subtract the b over 2a, and I will have x by itself. But notice that b over 2a has a common denominator with my fraction already. So this is going to be great. So we get x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And there's your quadratic formula. So there you go. That's where the quadratic formula comes from. That's why it works. All it is completing the square on that original ax squared over a plus bx, well, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So that's your Fun Fact Friday video.